What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow. So today we are back going to be talking about the Traitors Season 2, Episode 9. We are in the home stretch of this season. Just a few more episodes until we hit the end of the Traitors Season 2. So my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and I feel like this episode of The Traitors is really setting us up for the finale because we have the two different factions. We have people talking about getting to the end with the traitor. I feel like this is such a good setup for the finale, but also I'm kind of like, come on, guys, I want to see more than just setup. I want to see the actual like shit go down. So
Yeah, this episode sort of felt like a filler episode because stuff happened, but stuff didn't really happen. And then you get like a very bad cliffhanger at the end of the episode where I feel like it's probably 99% MJ is voting Peter out here. There wasn't really much suspense of like, okay, will MJ vote Peter or will MJ vote Phaedra? So it seems like a sort of kaput episode. I was like scrolling Reddit while watching and taking notes because my attention wasn't held this week.
yeah, I feel like one of the problems with this week is just that it's the continuation of last week in the sense that we're just having the same argument about who the traitor is, and it's the same suspects. And I don't know. I feel like they tried to put a little bit of suspicion when MJ was like, I'm not just going to vote for Phaedra because we're friends. But also, I feel like Peter made the argument for why MJ would want to keep Phaedra around because he was like, you want to keep the traitor who you know is a traitor with
Mm-hmm.
you until the end and then vote them out in the end. And it's like, okay, you've been telling everyone that Phaedra is a traitor. They'll just keep Phaedra until the end and vote you out now. Because it's like, the problem with Peter for keeping Phaedra, even though Peter knows that Phaedra is a traitor, is that Phaedra doesn't like him and Phaedra will try to kill him. And I feel like all of the Bravo people, like, they don't need to worry about Phaedra killing them because
Mm-hmm.
after, like, tonight, Trishelle is probably going to go home if Phaedra doesn't get voted out. Which, like, I agree with you. I think that MJ is going to vote for Peter and Peter is going to go home. So it's like the Bravo people, you didn't really give them a compelling reason to vote out Phaedra over voting out Peter.
Exactly. And as someone said it this episode, they were like, I don't want to share the money with this person. So that could just be now, like we were saying, the strategy should be you know who the traitors are, basically. You don't want to vote them out because you don't want them to have the opportunity to recruit. I feel like we've been saying this since Dan got voted out. Like, just keep on going. You've got Parvati and Phaedra there. Don't vote Parv out. Maybe keep her till the end too. Vote out the people you don't really like so you don't have to share the money that many ways when you get to the end because 250K potentially divided by 5 is way less than if you were splitting potentially up to 250 with like 2 people or 3 people kind of thing. So it's like it seems like the people's strategy is sort of off because the game isn't going to end when Phaedra gets voted out because then the traitors just continuously have more opportunities to recruit. Like they're on a schedule. So it doesn't necessarily make sense to vote them out. Similar to, I feel like, in Survivor, if you know someone has the hidden immunity idol, it's better to just let them hold the idol, you know where it is, rather than try to get them to flush the idol or anything funky like that because then the idol gets placed back into play and then you won't know who has the idol. Maybe it's someone in a different alliance that gets the idol. Maybe you can find the idol after flushing it or getting someone voted out with an idol kind of thing. But I feel like it's a lot safer to know where the pieces lay rather than trying to eliminate all the traitors at this point. Bring them to the end of the game.
Yeah, because I feel like Kate is the one in this game who I feel like is best set up for success because MJ maybe thinks that she's acting a little weird, but no one has been like, Kate, you're definitely a traitor. And so I feel like it's that kind of thing where by voting Parvati out, they basically set up the person she recruited, which is Kate, to like win the game because no one has any suspicion. Like, I don't know. It's weird because they all seem to realize that should be the strategy, but none of them are like saying it out loud that that's the strategy.
It's what we said it last week. We were like, Kate has the best opportunity. Maybe Phaedra can try to throw Kate under the bus because Kate came in late. And then you say, Kate maybe came in with a power. Kate probably is a traitor because she came in late, and try to get her eliminated based off that. But yeah, if you think Kate is a faithful and she came in as a faithful, she's still a faithful. Nobody has been recruited because someone was murdered last night. They might not think that anyone was recruited because someone still went home, compared to the first time someone was recruited. It was the option, you either recruit or you can murder someone. So maybe people are thinking they're just down to one traitor, but it does seem odd though that you might think that there's only 3 and the game ends after you get Phaedra. I would assume that someone else is in there now because the game just can't end. It's not the finale.
I mean, the game can just end, and I feel like it could also be kind of a mind game thing where like they keep on voting people even if there is no traitor left, just because like they're kind of banking on the fact that you're going to want to vote more people out because there still is a rift in the faithfuls. So
I wonder what the rules are. Can you get down to 0 traitors before like the sandbag portion of the game? Because then if no one ever is getting murdered at night, then you know that no killings are happening, so there are no traitors left. I feel like, I don't know, it's like it's potentially easier for the traitors because there's always at least one in the game until the sandbag final end portion of the game. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense with the game mechanics.
I don't know though. Maybe they just randomly pick someone to kill just because like if you assume that like Kate is like, nah, I'm not gonna be recruited, just murder me, and then they get Phaedra out at this point, it's kind of like they're not just gonna randomly pick someone to be a traitor, so I feel like they would have to randomly pick someone to kill. Or there's always the possibility, like with the shield, they could just be like, oh, they didn't know who got the shield. Though I guess with this particular challenge, it would be kind of dumb because everyone knows who got the shield. So I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I'd want to see the rule book because you're right. Say Kate said no, Kate gets killed because it was the ultimatum here for becoming a traitor or dying, and then Phaedra gets voted out here. Say there are no traitors. What happens then? Because like you make a TV show, you have a certain number of episodes, you have like how the game is going to play out. There's probably got to be someone in there doing something. Otherwise, it's like people are just voting each other out.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess they have to have contingency plans, like the way they had a contingency plan in Survivor when there were like 3 medevacs. I feel like bringing Kate back in is kind of a contingency plan because someone quit earlier this season. So there must be something in the rules about it. Like they're not going to get caught with their pants down if something wild does happen. I'm just not sure what that something is.
Yeah, so Kate does accept becoming a traitor. This scene with Phaedra and Kate in the dungeon was so funny, awkward. It like felt like they rehearsed it and they were like, okay, let me do another take. Stick the camera on me and let me repeat the line again. It just felt so funny, awkward, weird, this scene.
Yeah, I thought it was weird just because like Phaedra really didn't have a plan, so her going up to Kate and being like, "Oh, what's the plan?" Like part of it is just awkward because Kate's right. Like, why do you, Phaedra, who's been a traitor since the beginning, not have even an idea of a plan? Because I feel like if it was Peter who had just been recruited and someone else like got voted out, then you can be like, "I've only been a traitor for like 2 days. I have no idea what I'm doing just because I was trying to keep the other traitors from like being voted out and sent home."
Mhm.
But like, I don't know. I feel like that's one of the problems with the traitors, like the whole game that the traitors played, because I feel like Dan, Parvati, and Phaedra never really had a cohesive plan. They were always kind of on the back foot ever since they failed to kill Berkey when he had the shield. So I feel like that's the kind of thing that if you're going to be a traitor on this show, you should have at least an idea of a plan and like be flexible with it. Like it doesn't have to be like, oh, I have a list of everyone who's going to be voted out in the order I want them to like be killed, but like don't just don't come up to your new recruit and be like, so what are we doing? What's the plan? Because that doesn't inspire confidence.
Yeah, sort of like thinking a few steps ahead, but being flexible, malleable in your ideas and like the numbers and the voting and like who you should be killing at the nighttime portion to get your way during the daytime portion is very, very important. I don't know. It's like what Dan said. This is either $1 million move or like this wins me the game or this loses me the game. And low key, it's losing all of the traders the game because it's all been downhill since the Bergie mishap with the shield. But I thought their turret talk was funny because they're like, okay, Kate says, let's vote out Kevin just because he's annoying. And then she's like, "Oh, Peter puts the dick in dictator."
Yeah, I feel like Kate, if nothing else, is a good choice for a traitor just because she's funny. And I feel like the traitors kind of, they rely on, like, they're not winning by strategy at this point. So they win on personality. So I think the only bad thing about Kevin is, like Phaedra said, like, he did vote for her and the Peter pals did notice, like, that, one of their own was taken out again, which kind of like making the argument that, like, oh, Peter might be a traitor. I feel like it's pretty easy to be like, all of my allies are getting voted out. Of course I'm not the traitor. So maybe voting out Kevin isn't the best move, but also, like, who else were they going to vote out or kill, I guess, not vote out?
Yeah, a difficult spot to be in because you're probably not voting out or yeah, the housewives here. John, maybe. Like, you're going to target the faithful of the faithful people, and, like, Sandra's sort of in the middle-ish, but sort of with the housewives, and then CT's sort of in the middle. It can go either way. He has his own mind. So it's really like you'd want to target one of Peter's peeps, and one of them potentially does have the shield. So we see it's like between Kevin and Trishelle, but last week we saw CT let Trishelle get the shield. So it's a little bit spicy in the breakfast portion. Like, okay, did the traitors F up again and they targeted someone with the shield? If they flubbed this and Trishelle does live, that means they wasted the nighttime portion. Again, they didn't get to murder everyone. The numbers are still more similar with the Peters pals compared to everyone else. That would be very bad for the traitors because now that it worked, okay, Kevin is gone. They didn't pick Trishelle. It does give the Bravo housewives, like the Phaedra alliance, more numbers over Peter's alliance. So it's a good thing they didn't flub this and go for the person with the shield, which they wouldn't have known, but it's a good thing they killed Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, they could have known that Kevin didn't have a shield just because Kevin wasn't down in the like tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, yeah, definitely good for them that they didn't flub it just because, hoy vey, that would have been bad.
And maybe that's why they did pick Kevin, because I do remember us talking last week. It's like, okay, all the Bravo people up in the house quit, and then Kevin was the only one left, and he was like the last person to go through the tunnels. CT came back for him. It's probably a less chance that he was able to find the shield because he probably just went straight from the start to the finish to get out of the tunnel compared to everyone else crawling around down there for the entire time. It would just be safer to pick someone who was in the house portion for this challenge, and you wouldn't kill your fellow TV show people, so you'd kill Kevin.
Yeah. I just also feel like Kevin just is a good choice because he didn't really contribute that much. He was just a number for Peter. So it was a lot of good reasons to vote out Kevin, and I'm glad that they didn't, or kill Kevin, I guess. And it was good that they killed him and not Trishelle.
Exactly. It's sort of similar reasons to why you would murder Bergie last time.
Exactly.
So we get to some talk about some voting numbers before the challenge. We see Trishelle, John, and Peter are the last of the Faithful Alliance. They're a threesome voting block. Trishelle is like, y'all, we're screwed. We don't have the numbers because there are 4 of the ladies from the Bravo TV shows. Like, we are down. So we need to get Sandra and CT potentially. So it'd be a 5-4 split on this vote. Numbers wise, I think maybe for Sandra and CT, it could be helpful to flip and then to break up the housewives block a little bit, because I don't know. I feel like if I were like in the middle or on the outside and you went to the end with the 4 Bravo people and you, like Sandra might do, if it's like 4 Bravo and Sandra, they sort of might just vote you out because they don't want to share the money and you're the person not from their TV show. It might be a little bit dangerous because they do have a majority. So it could be interesting if you flipped here to try to dwittle down the Bravo numbers.
Yeah, but I think also, like, if you're CT or Sandra, how do you not trust that if you get to the end with John, Trishelle, and Peter, that John, Trishelle, and Peter don't just do the same thing? So
That's true.
I think it's hard to be in the middle just because you're never going to be really guaranteed safety the way that the people who have been like strong from the start have. And I think that from what we've seen, Sandra has like a pretty good working relationship with all the Bravo people. So I think it would be kind of petty of them to vote her out just so they could all get a little more money, especially because like they're not really gamers in the sense that like
Mm.
I could see it like if you only went to the end with gamers, them possibly pulling the whole like I'll vote you out to get more money scheme. But I feel like the housewives like aren't quite that cutthroat. I could be wrong though. I could eat my words when it comes to the end.
And maybe Sandra's thinking like, oh, the Bravo people seemingly have more money than like the Trishelle John Peter coalition. So maybe even if you do go to the end with like a foursome that is super tight like that, maybe they care less and they don't really care to vote any more people out by the end because like they have enough money compared to people that might be like, okay, there is a big difference between us splitting it 3 ways, 2 ways, 4 ways, 5 ways. It seems like that could be something you might be looking at.
Yeah, I think the bigger deal for Sandra would be people are suspecting that she might be a traitor now. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that would be the bigger deal and the reason that she'd get voted off and not necessarily people not wanting to split the money with her.
Yeah, and if you're metagaming it, the 2 traders that have been eliminated have been the strategy reality TV shows. We've talked sort of about the metagame throughout this season. Like, they're probably not picking 3 men to be traders. They're probably not picking 3 women to be traders. So you can sort of look at like the number of like the TV shows and the traders, as well as the gender of the traders to sort of potentially suss out who else could be a traitor, but that sort of I feel like goes away a little bit once the traders get to recruit because then you could have all women traders or all men traders once they get to recruit and pick who they want as their partners.
Yeah, I was gonna say, now that they voted out 2 traders, I feel like you can't really rely on the metagame of like, oh, they wouldn't do like another like man because like they could have recruited a man. I feel like if anything, seeing the 2 gamers be voted out makes it more suspicious that it's going to be someone who isn't a gamer who's the final trader or a final trader, just because you know that they probably wouldn't have started with 2 gamers as traders, and so you have to think like, oh, maybe it's a housewife, maybe it's a bachelor, maybe it's someone who's not one of the gamers.
That's what I would think. I would think like, okay, 2 gamers TV show people got eliminated. It's probably a Bravo person in there as like the last one, the third one, someone else, because you probably wouldn't start with 3 gamer people to start, like you were saying. So low key, maybe you metagame it, and it seems like people are just basing the Phaedra stuff from new stuff that she did like this episode, but also from Dan saying Phaedra's a traitor and Parvati saying Phaedra's a traitor.
Yeah. So I feel like also though you could make that argument against Peter, be kind of like, well, Peter, you aren't from one of the gamer shows, but I don't know.
But we get to the challenge. You are using a crossbow to break these little stained glass window things. The last name standing gets the shield. If you miss your shot, then you're losing money each time. So we start this challenge. Everyone's just shooting willy nilly. They're trying to like strategize. Oh, I don't like this person. Let me aim for their target because I don't want them to get the shield. Then they realize, oh, shooting the crossbow is sort of hard. We're losing a couple thousand buckaroos. So let's just shoot it as easy as possible, aim for the easier ones, and let's just go in a line. So our crossbow aim isn't getting messed up each time. And then Phaedra changes the plan and she's like, nah, y'all, let's go for Trishelle now, which I do agree. People also call her out that this is a little bit sketch. Like, why would you go away from this good plan that's working, just continue down the line to actually, Trishelle, we need to go shoot your target now.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense because, like she said, they tried so many times to hit CT and they just couldn't do it. So I would be like, okay, let's try someone else. But I would try like John or basically John because his name was next to CT's. So it's like definitely suspicious. But also, Sandra said, like, oh, let's get Trishelle because she's the last person in the bottom row. And you were not able to successfully hit anyone in the top row. Maybe it's because the top row is the hardest to aim at. Like, we know that we can hit someone in the bottom row, but we've never hit someone in the top row. So I feel like if Phaedra had made her argument a little better, it would have been less suspicious.
It is a little bit sketch looking. Like Peter's already doesn't have a shield, and so maybe you can murder him in the nighttime. Like only one person is getting the shield. Is it that big of a deal that Trishelle doesn't have a shield? Like you could kill John or Peter if they don't have a shield, kind of thing. So it does look a little bit odd. Like okay, why Trishelle specifically out of all of Peter's pals here? When you could just be like, okay, Peter's not safe, John's not safe. It doesn't really matter. It's all sort of one and the same. But it does seem like when you do specifically target someone like that, you're like, oh, why does she not want me here specifically? That's a little bit weird. She wants me up for murder because maybe I'm a hindrance to her game. I'm voting for her, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it did just. It also just was confusing because I wouldn't say that Trishelle was like the most important of the Peter pals. Like, you could say that it's better that Peter is the one who didn't get the shield, even if he might be going home at this round table. Like, if he doesn't, you want him up for elimination. Like, I don't know. It just definitely seemed like a weird hill to die on.
Exactly. Like there's three Peter's pals left. Okay, one of them gets voted out at the round table. Say Peter goes. You still then have John or Trishelle up for elimination. If one of them did get the shield, like John, then you just vote Trishelle. If Trishelle got the shield, then you vote John. But maybe you're like, okay, John's more of a follower. Trishelle is more outspoken. So we want to murder Trishelle so she shouldn't be safe at the nighttime portion, kind of thing. So maybe, but I feel like throwing yourself out there like that to change the plan does look, people would just raise eyebrows, which is what we saw.
Yeah, so I feel like everyone was saying that Phaedra was the best traitor because she had the least amount of suspicion on her. But I think after seeing how she's playing, even without Parvati and Dan throwing suspicion on her, I'm not sure she would have gotten to the end regardless.
Yeah, so we get to the round table area. It's Peter versus Phaedra. Before the round table, we do see MJ say, oh, yeah, the Bravo people, we aren't loyal to Phaedra. Like, we would be willing to vote her out at a round table. So maybe that's sort of where they're thinking the suspense would be for the cliffhanger with MJ maybe voting for Peter, maybe voting for Phaedra. But I feel like that's weak. I will be very, very shocked next week if MJ votes out Phaedra. I'm like, it's got to be Peter here, right?
Yeah, I think also just in general, we talked about this during like the Bergie attempted murder, but just like, why are you doing cliffhangers like this? It kind of feels like it's slowing down the momentum. So I don't like that they're doing cliffhangers. It feels like they're just trying to grab on to ratings because they know that people are going to watch at the beginning of next week at least to see who like gets voted out, but that kind of ruins the flow then next week. So
Yeah, like the cliffhangers were really, really good at the start of this season. I remember us being like, oh my God, like I can't wait until next week. Now I'm thinking Yo, this episode is sort of slow.
Yeah, like I would be more excited for next week knowing whether it was Peter or Phaedra that went home, because that gives us more opportunity to speculate about, like, if Phaedra goes home, like, oh, like, you know, Kate is on her own now. If Peter goes home, that's going to be even wilder, because then the Peter pals have lost their leader. People are going to be sussing everyone else because Peter obviously is a faithful. It would have been, I feel like, more exciting for me to know who is going home. And it feels cheap this way.
Hmm. And I also feel like maybe it doesn't really matter because if Peter goes home this week, or I guess
Mhm.
next week now, Peter's eliminated here at the vote. They murder, I don't know, say Trishelle at nighttime. The people left are going to be like, okay, we we got to vote Phaedra out probably. Like hopefully the Bravo people would maybe be like, okay, there's not that many people left, so maybe we do need to look at Phaedra because everyone was saying her. I feel like it will be very difficult for Phaedra to win at the end, as in like stand there after the sandbag portion. So I feel like maybe they're cliffhangering it here because it's sort of like a moot point. One goes this week, the other one might go next week.
Yeah, but it's still kind of like, give us something for sitting here for an hour watching. Like, knowing that Kevin is the one who's murdered isn't that big of a deal. I would rather know who gets banished and
Yeah,
then leave
I
the
would have loved to
cliffhanger.
see at the end of this episode Phaedra and Kate come together at the turret and just hear, okay, Kate, how was your first day as a traitor? What were your thoughts? How are you doing? That would have been interesting to see, and maybe we'll see it at the start of next week's episode. Maybe it could have cliffhangered on Kate and Phaedra talking about who they want to kill, which maybe it's just obvious because maybe they're just killing Trishelle here next week. So maybe this was the best cliffhanger they got, but it's not. If MJ does vote out Phaedra, we will be eating our words next week, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I wish that they, like, gave us something. This felt like a boring episode.
Yeah, sort of another lull week, but I'm excited. The finale is coming up in a little bit. Survivor US is back next Wednesday, the premiere, which is wild. Like, how did this hiatus fly by so quickly? So Alyssa and I will be doing our Survivor cast assessment on Monday before the Wednesday premiere, so looking forward to that. It's going to be a ton of fun. But yeah, let us know in the comments down below what you thought of this episode of The Traitors. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you think this cliffhanger was sort of bad? Definitely let us know. Thank you all for watching, and we will